Good morning. Here we are, Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Fall morning, just about 11 a.m. On the 2nd of October, and I probably don't have to tell you that fall is approaching. Not a lot of global boiling going on around here. This car was down in need of repair. I was actually doing a preventative maintenance kind of repair. Well, actually exploratory, I think would be a better term. We're building something here too. I was. Is that good? It kind of looks like I should use that. Oh, we'll try that. I'm goofing with the noise reduction on there. The brightness reduction, the ND filter. Boy, it's pretty here. Anyway, not a lot of boiling going on here, but a lot of turning. So I had a thought about something last week. Watching YouTube, some of the low carb people were concerned that apparently YouTube has decided that if the World Health Organization doesn't agree or endorse a medical point of view, that they're going to censor, which is bullshit to begin with. But that's what censors, that's what, that's what these people do. They've got to control something. So anyway, now I think that's one of the things about censorship that maybe isn't brought to bear that much. People love doing this to people. It's not a matter of, well, it's evil to begin with to censor people. But the people that like to censor people, I think they firmly enjoy being mean to people, being evil, doing evil. It kind of works hand in hand. People that are pro-censorship are evil, and they're happy to shut someone's opinion down. Because in their mind, they've decided that opinion, that person that is espousing that opinion is not worth their time. And they're going to shut them down. And they made that decision based on not logic, not reason, but on their belief. And if you look at logic and reason when it comes to these kinds of things, you realize that we are basically left with belief. Even with scientific facts that we treat as fact, we believe them or we don't believe them. And if they're proven to be mistakes, to be wrong, that usually happens when a different opinion, a different point of view comes about, and it's still a belief. And science knows this. Science is not, anyway. So when people censor people, they're not being scientific about it. They're being asshole about it. And so when YouTube censors, they're looking for reasons to be censorious, right? They want to censor. They want to support their political point of view, which is also, by the way, a religious point of view. They're intertwined. You know, you can't separate them. People try to separate them all the time. That's funny. Like, this is business. This isn't, you know, and that when you're caught doing something bad, and you say, well, this is business. Yeah, okay. So you're saying in business you can screw people, but in your personal relationships you would never screw people. But as a business person, you screw people. Now, I've met people that do that. I knew a girl who was big religious. She was into this religion called the Urantia. And I had an argument with her about that. I worked for her for a very, very short amount of time. In a resume writing service. And I thought what she was doing was unethical, and I told her so. And she got mad at me. She said, this is business. And I'm thinking, oh, this is from someone who is so overtly religious that religion permeates every pore of her being. Well, except when she's doing business. And I don't know what other carve-outs she might have made, but she was certainly on the left back then. I didn't care back then, because at the time, I was wanting to get laid. But I'll say this, I was actually looking for a wife too. So I was sort of a dual purpose thing. Although I find that I think wanting to get laid and looking for a wife are conflicting activities. I don't think one lends to the other very well. So, anyway. YouTube apparently doesn't like people talking about low-carb diets. And there's a big pushback about low-carb right now. There was a study came out, but it was what the doctors call a very low-quality study. It wasn't like a randomized, you know, you've heard all that BS before. It wasn't a randomized whatever kind of trial. It was more of just, what's your opinion about this? And people will tell their opinion about it. Well, based on that study, which I think was put out there by food companies or pharmaceutical companies or the organizations that support one or the other or both, so that they would have some ammunition, because low carb is becoming a pretty gigantic, huge deal. By the way, we're going to go down 131 to Oak Creek today. Last video I shot, we came down this road, but I turned a couple miles ahead and we went down a beautiful little river road. You know, we might want to do that again. No, I want to show you the 131. Yeah, so we'll stay on 131. It's going to be pretty. It's just not going to be as pretty as the river road, but I really want to try to hit as many roads as I can, and I don't have a long time to do it. I have today and tomorrow, and next week might be too late. But today and tomorrow, I think I'm going to get what I'm going to get, and I want to get the canyon going into Oak Creek, because it's beautiful. and I want to get 20 Mile Road because it's beautiful. So we're going to do that, and tomorrow we'll try to get some Wyoming, try to get Medicine Bow, and we'll try to get both mountain ranges up there. The Medicine Bow range and the Sierra Madre range. So low carb is, I think, the problem that low carb is creating is that it is destroying the narrative that the World Health Organization, the food industry, and the pharmaceutical industry have been nursing for the last several years. And that is that we need a meatless, high carb diet. High carb, low fat. That's what they're pushing. Let's try that. So I believe that what's going on is that these companies are noticing that they're losing customers. They've got to be. And I think that this is their first, in today's new brave world where people in power lie to people that aren't in power, I think that's their go-to response. And that they are using censorship to attempt to prolong the lie of low carb, or of not low carb, but of high carb, low fat. And I watched different doctors talking about this issue, and what I notice is that the people that are, and there are doctors that are against this low carb diet, right? They think that you need high carbs and low fat. And that's a traditional view, by the way. To them, I would ask, well, why is it that diabetes, heart disease, and cancer have become almost like a plague? I mean, they've become very common. When 100 years ago, they weren't common. It was an unusual thing. When I was a kid in school, to see a fat kid in school was an oddity. So, fat kids were kind of picked on because they were so out of place. It was a very strange thing. But the diabetes, cancer, heart disease has grown by leaps and bounds. And from what I'm seeing, and from anecdotal evidence to actual studies about, actual real studies about low carb, high fat diets, they are helping people all over the world. People that were formerly going along with the standard American diet, or the standard Western diet, I suppose we could call it. So YouTube is, of course, if this is a true situation, which I believe it probably is, YouTube is throwing their censorship power, which they absolutely do not legally have. But they don't care, they're using it anyway. Because they're leftist. God exists. God does not believe in communism. I think if God thought communism was great, God would have made us beings a lot different. We would be sheep. You know, we wouldn't have this independent streak in us. So anyway, that's what we've got. Oh man, I missed out. I could have taken you on a cool little back road up here. Oh well. Sometimes it's best, I guess, to stay on the main back road and not get off on back roads off the main back road. But I think that's what's going on. I think, and YouTube is all for it, of course. Anytime they can censor somebody, they're right there. They're happy to do it. Now, for me, I guess, luckily, my channel does not get recommended, does not get pushed. Unless you subscribe, it may show up in your feed. And maybe if you search for things that would bring this channel up, maybe it will bring it up, but maybe not. So, I don't know. But it's certainly, it's certainly clamped down. But I appreciate every subscriber that I've got. So, and I appreciate your comments too. And all y'all know, I check your comments out and reply to every one of them. That's one of the really nice things about not having a bunch of subscribers. If I get, at some point, so many subscribers, I won't be able to do that, just physically won't. And then so when you comment and I don't comment back because I just don't have the time in the day, if that ever does happen, well, realize that I desperately want to, comment back. But I don't think I've got to worry about that. I don't think that YouTube's going to allow this channel to propagate much further than what it has. They've kept it down pretty good. Yeah, now we're getting into the oak brush. We kind of lost the sun, so we've lost the brilliance of the yellow. That's a shame. However, this is still pretty. The cloudy, the gray nature of it's real pretty too. So apparently, that's what YouTube will be doing, is they will be censoring, or they have begun to, shut down the idea of high-fat, low-carb. I was thinking about that this morning because I shifted over to a high-fat, low-carb diet a couple years ago, and it's only been good. It has been so amazingly good for me. And you can believe me or not, but why would I bullshit you? I think that's a really good question for the morons at YouTube that love censorship to ask. Why would somebody bullshit people about that? Or why would they? Unless they're just evil. Just want to be evil and bad. The day that I switched over to low carb was the next day, was a huge improvement. Because my digestion had stopped working completely. And I switched over, I quit the carb, quit eating carbs. And I probably had something like bacon, I don't know, whatever it was, but it was. These people are taking their time. I'm not in a hurry though. Ready. the result of that changing over for me has been amazing. And the changes that it's made in my life have been pretty amazing also. I used to have to eat fiber all the time. And I just figured it was getting, it was getting old. Like I watched my dad go through this. I watched him start eating fiber, and I was following in his footsteps until that day. And it was other people in my family that were doing low carb, talking about it. And I thought, well, it's worth a try. My choice is I do this low carb thing and see how it works, or I go to the hospital because I've got an issue. My digestion quit working. Believe me, that's an issue. When the conveyor belt stops running, it's a big deal. So immediately, I didn't need fiber anymore. I didn't need it. My digestion worked. Everything was working properly. And it's not only, it's only gotten better. Since I've learned a little bit how to eat. And I still eat. I eat some carbs. I'm not a super picky person, but I didn't have diabetes. I was moving in that direction though, but I didn't actually have it. But I had some of the, I guess you could say, early signs of it. So I'm just relating to you the change that happened, and the change that I made was I quit eating so many carbs. One of the things that I lost weight. I wasn't really even worried about that either, but I did lose a substantial amount of weight. Right now I weigh about what I weighed when I was 20. And from that time on, I just kept gaining like about a pound a year until I was up at about 220, up in that area. Maybe 215. So I lost a bunch of weight. And another thing that is I find real interesting, people have made a big deal out of harping on people drinking water all the time. Drink water, drink water, drink water, like a fish. Carry water around. People push this. Companies send water jugs to their employees. They think it's so important to keep hydrated, right? That's the big popular thing, keep hydrated. Well, when you go on a high-fat, low-carb diet, this is my personal experience. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Well, this is my personal experience. I'm not saying it would be yours, but it's mine. I don't need water anymore. I carry it with me. I always carry it. If I have a breakdown, I might come in handy. Or if I need to, for whatever reason, it can be a handy thing to have. But as far as having to drink it all the time, I don't. And I was doing that too. I was thinking, well, maybe I don't drink enough water, so I drink water. Like my typical route on a day like today, I would probably have already drunk about a liter of water. And this morning, just in contrast, this morning I got up, and I have medicine that I take every day, so I took that. So a glass of water, and then 2 cups of coffee, and that's it. I'm not thirsty at all. But back when I was on the high carb diet, I would be thirsty. And the thing about it is that carbohydrates need water to process into glucose, right? Or into the sugar that your body stores. For every gram of that material that your body stores, and apparently you need like 2.7 grams of water to store it in. And that's why when people stop the high carbs, they lose all this water weight, because they don't need it if they're getting their energy from keto, from the ketones, I also have noticed that recently a couple videos have popped up, and they're talking about a disease called, it's not ketosis, keto, well, I can't think of the name of it, but it's apparently it's a disease where your body just runs away and goes, it's like deadly. And apparently these people, the people that are pushing it, are trying to link that idea with a high-fat, low-carb diet, when in reality, the two don't have anything in common. You know, one is a medical condition that is brought on by I'm not sure what, but it's not brought on by changing your diet. I know that much about it. Oh yeah, check this out, y'all. Pretty oranges we have up here in the red. I love when it's pines, oak brush. Wow, the oak brush is almost completely turned here. And notice the leaves falling here. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating when I say I think this is, well, I believe this will be the last week. This will be the week of the peak in most high country locations. So my own experience has been completely different than the dire warnings that I hear some doctors make, the anti-keto doctors are making. And the doctors that are for keto have all been quick to say that nutrition was not one of the subjects that they were taught as a doctor. I think they said we got a lecture one day in our 10 years of education or whatever, 8 years of education that we took to become a doctor. And that doesn't surprise me. And from the doctors that I know and that I've talked to, I think I can verify that does seem to be right. I had a doctor back in it was like, I think I was 30, in my mid 30s, maybe late 30s. And I would go to this doctor. He would always have physician assistants fill in. I think he would train people. And so I never knew who I would see. I'd always see somebody different. And there are issues, by the way, that there are ramifications to that too. But I won't get into that right now, but it can be it can become a bit of an issue to have so many different people see you. But I think that my doctor probably oversaw stuff and checked their notes out and everything. But one of these physician assistants, he looked at my blood pressure, which is always higher when I go to the doctor. And nowadays I check it at the house before I go, and then I report to them what my blood pressure was, and they err on the favor of what I'm telling them, because there's a thing, where people get a little nervous when they go to the doctor. We're really not going the right direction for the best viewing of the aspens here. What I'm saying is that the most awesome aspen grove on this road is over to our left right now, and you can only see just a little bit of it downrange quite a ways. No, but you get to see the oak brush. That's kind of nice. It's beautiful anyway, and you get a little glimpses of that beautiful aspen forest over here. So this one physician's assistant said, well, I guess it's about time to put you on statins. And I thought to myself, I don't think so. Now, this was before I actually knew what statins were. And my knee-jerk reaction to medical stuff is, I don't think so. I'm going to take a lot of convincing through my own study, or talking to somebody and looking at other sources before I allow somebody to do some kind of medical procedure that involves drugs or surgery. I'm not giving that my go ahead blindly. I mean, if I don't have to, I'm not gonna. So I wasn't impressed with that statement. But that is basically the same philosophy that is here today. The anti-keto doctors have. They don't have a good answer for where did all this disease come from. I mean, it blew up in the last 70 years. It blew up just like the people in the West blew up. In pretty much every culture, people are getting fat. We certainly, the America, I mean, it's so, and I watched my dad and I watched my mom do the things they were supposed to do, the things that the doctor and the government recommended, and I watched both of them die. And although I think that there were vastly different reasons for each one of them passing away, one of the big things in common was that they were getting the diseases that everybody gets, that at one point I just attributed to, well, that's just aging. But I look at that differently now. Oh man, how pretty is that? That makes up for not being able to see another aspen grove. Just those variety of colors are really pretty. Well, we've got a cold front moving in today. So it's going to be rainy and cloudy today and probably tomorrow. And I think, well, I don't know if we're going to have a hard freeze tomorrow morning. I think that's what they're actually forecasting. So that's going to that diminishes the foliage. It really starts to come off when when this kind of a weather system moves through. And this is typically how it does in the fall around here. That's what will typically stop the fall colors. So I think we're going to have a real short season of fall colors. That's not to say they won't be around for a while, but I think that we're peaking this week for sure. At least around here. So the doctors that are against the keto, by the way, if you don't know, and I've mentioned this, keto is not like a diet. Keto was a medical treatment for kids with seizures in the 50s. And it did work. But then medicines were developed that helped. And so that diet, the medical treatment diet, fell out of favor. So it's not like there's a Mr. Keto out there who is making a bunch of money on a fat diet. That's absolutely not what keto is. When ketosis is a condition where you're getting your energy from fat rather than from sugar. So and it's interesting when I hear one of the clips that I watched, this doctor was talking about how, okay, you think you're better off when you get on the keto diet. Her theory was, her philosophy, well, no, her warning was this: oh, you think you're better just because you feel better, just because you've lost weight, just because you know your insulin resistance is more under control, or maybe under control, doesn't mean you still don't have diabetes. And that is kind of a humorous thing if you think about it to say. It's kind of like saying, just because your leg feels better after you broke it, just because you got out of a cast yesterday and you could walk around, your leg was broken. And you better act accordingly. I mean, that's apparently what she is saying. She said, you did have this, you had better still act like you've got it. Or my theory is a bunch of, is shot full of holes. And maybe that's all it has to deal with. This is like the most annoying rain. It's just enough to really create issues on a windshield, but it's not really even raining more than it's just sort of blowing parallel to the ground. Well, no one said fall was going to be, photogenic as far as taking pictures. No one said it was going to be great. It's what it is. Anyway, from what I'm seeing, the people that are against keto don't have a good argument for it at all. They have, apparently, like I said, a recent survey saying, oh, keto is bad for you. But the survey is apparently, like I said, a very low quality survey. And all I can say about it is that I've been on the standard diet, and I've been on the keto diet, and I can tell you what's better. There's no doubt in my mind what's better. I know what's better. I know how I feel. One of the really interesting things that I found when I have a bug strike over here. There's still bugs flying around in this. What's wrong with those damn things? And we're getting really strong gusty winds. We weren't supposed to get this severe of weather here. That was supposed to be down south. I mean, way down south. But we're definitely getting the severe weather and the severe wind. The rabbit brush, which is usually has been really, really bright yellow, really pretty. There's a little bit of it over there. It's pretty much disappearing. Oh, we got a little bit here. That's nice to see. But it's on the downturn also. Pretty hillside over there.